Welcome guys to this week's Dev Diary, episode 6 for the 23rd of September 2017. We're coming a day late. I had some audio troubles, so I've been just kind of fixing that and getting kind of the audio sorted out. My bitrate yesterday was quite crap as well, so that kind of affected things. So we're a day late, but we should have a good show today, a good stream. There's a lot to kind of show, a lot of stuff that I've kind of changed and kind of new directions and things. So with that said, let's get cracking. So we'll start with the spline work and replacing some of the roads. So you can see that our roads were kind of painted, our trails painted onto the landscape. It's not an ideal solution, but it's a good way to start. At least then when it comes to laying your splines, you kind of have something to go off and you can always get rid of them again. So with that said, I'll head up here. We'll increase our camera speed just so we can move around a bit quicker. So you can see I have 3 separate pieces of geometry that make up this trail, just to give it a bit of variation. And I've also utilized vertex painting for this. So you can see I have a nice density of vertices here to paint on, and all of these have LODs as well to try and control some of that that density. Because it's quite expensive, it's nice to have appropriate LODs to kind of break that down. So I'm just going to turn on our color view mode just to give you an idea. So you can see that excuse me, you can see that in our color view mode you can see our vertex channels basically, and I haven't used all of them, and perhaps some of them here are on that shouldn't be on, but they'll be fine. I'm not worried about that at all. But that'll save us a lot of time and effort when it comes to doing areas like this, where before we had a decal that kind of covered our transition from one kind of path to another one. We'll actually be able to paint that detail in much more effectively and give it a much more unique kind of look. Also, we'll be able to break up some of the grass at the side of the road. I still have 2 channels free in the sRGB vertex color channels, so I'll be able to do something there. So yeah, hopefully throughout the week I'm going to continue on doing my splines for my roads. But when it comes to junctions like this, I'll have to take a break, because since we're using splines, it means that our junctions, we have to create custom set dressings for them. If our splines were just basic planar geometry, then we'd be fine. We wouldn't have to do anything. But because we have kind of unique geometry that's kind of 3 different types that are kind of have a random seed as regards their placement on the spline. All their inverts terminate at the same elevations and kind of coordinates, so that they'll kind of snap together in a kip bash way. But still, we'll have to create custom kind of set dressings for junctions. With that in mind, I'll probably create 3 or 4 different kinds, or maybe even maximum 6. They're not going to be that hard to make, but I can't see us needing more than 4, but it could go up to 6. It may change some of the orientation, the kind of the directionality of our kind of trails and roads once we start introducing these junctions, just to kind of rationalize it a bit better. But that's okay, I can't foresee it being a problem. It should be quite easy to place those in and get them sit quite well with the landscape. So hopefully this week I'll have a go at, in this file, project file, of getting my landscape and my junctions working. If I can do that in this file, I'll be happy enough. in this project file. I have a separate project file going at the moment I'll talk about in a minute, but just with that said, we also have some nice results with our cliffs, some more detail going into our set dressing meshes, and real-time tessellation in our materials, some bump mapping, things like that are working out really well, and I'm happy with the results. So we're getting there now with little things like that. You may have noticed I've removed a lot of foliage and grass. Again, that's to do with the other project that I've set up at the moment, that harnesses procedural foliage placement and things like that. And that was from basically landscape auto material. So the landscape auto material, I'll bring it up here if it's on the Epic Games Store. So landscape auto material. The landscape auto material by VEA Games, I think I picked it up for about €81.42. It had been a bit more expensive. I noticed the price of it goes up and down. That could be something to do with currency exchanges. I'm not quite sure, but well worth it. So what we'll do is we'll go back into our project here. I'll just close this. If it asks me to save, I might actually save just in case I've done anything in the vertex paint mode. So we'll go over to this project. So I set up a separate project where I can be as destructive as I want with things and not worry about breaking my actual game files, my project files. So it's worth kind of setting that up and getting it working that way for yourself. That if you are going to be trying out something new, don't do it in your main project. Set up a blank project and just go nuts, and that way you're not worried about breaking anything. So I have my ocean, similar to the other project. I have the ultra dynamic sky in, just so I can change the time of day and kind of get things looking the way I want. I'm using different assets than the ones that came with the pack. I'm using my own kind of types of rocks and my own grass texture. One of the things you'll notice that it does quite nicely is we're getting a nice variation in the colour of our grass, our landscape material. A few things I'd like to do is kind of sort out the scale of and the kind of density of some of the foliage. This is a third-person project just for this test, because it's nice to be able to check the scale against the player mesh. Excuse me, and kind of see exactly if the scale of our grass and everything like that is working. So just to give you a quick demo of kind of some of the features of this. So if I were to get my sculpting tools out, so you can see at the moment here this grassy area, so we'll work here. We'll do a bit of sculpting here, just random sculpting. I'm not going to do anything kind of, again, this is a destructible kind of project. I'm not really worried about what I break or what I do in here. So you can see that it's got stone there, and we've got nuts in a place. We'll actually make a little volcano for the laugh. Make a stereotypical show and tell style volcano. So got some kind of thing that looks roughly like a volcano there, but you can see that it kind of automatically takes care of the placement of things. So if we go down onto that, you'll see that our grass is back there. Again, these aren't the assets that come with it. It does come with a lot of assets. I just found the scale of them to be a little off, and they kind of didn't suit my project. I'm going for that West of Ireland look, and they looked a bit tundra, a bit too lush and green for kind of what we're going for. But at the moment, yeah, everything in here is kind of where I can go nuts and break stuff. It's just a copy of I took a height map from the other level and brought it across just to see if I could kind of compare the two. And I think ultimately combining both techniques, You can see that in some areas I still have texture tiling stuff to sort out here, just so I can kind of, but at the moment I was focused on the grass. But I'd like to come back and get some of the UV tiling and stuff like that sorted, so that I get a better idea, even jot down the settings I used and the kind of values that I'm punching into the graphs and things like that, to make it easier when I go back to the other file and go back to working on things there. It'll just make things a lot easier. So yeah, I think the best solution would be a combination of both kinds of techniques, using once I get a handle on this file, using both kind of techniques, using the set dressing method that I'm using in the actual project file over there, and the kind of landscape auto material. So we're not going to save that. That is literally all our kind of destructible stuff until we get a handle on everything. So my goal for the rest of the week in this main project file is to complete the roads. I'm going to create my junctions and get them all hooked up, got all the vertex painting done. There's nothing incredibly tedious about it. It's really easy. I can get rid of all, I think I already have. I've gotten rid of the decals that were kind of covering the transition between the two different road types. You can see that I get something far nicer effect-wise with just the vertex painting and the splines. So I'm going to continue doing that for the whole level, for all the roads that are in here at the moment. I may put a junction in here so that we can have a path that leads off in this direction. I may do the same kind of down here, create set dressings for kind of slipways, and maybe a separate kind of a set dressing for the paths from the houses. And once that's done, I'd like to kind of do maybe a small bit more of this vertex painting that I've done on kind of some of these assets. Maybe fix some of the UVs, try and get them a bit more horizontal to match the bedding planes of the rock and stuff like that. Areas like this seem to be getting a little bit better. I can also kind of maybe take this seam that we see here in areas. I'll be able to cover that up with foliage and other actors. But for now, what I'm going to do is just continue on with that and that in this main project file, and then the other kind of experimental destructive file that I'm using for the landscape auto material, just to get a handle on it. Once I get the settings and I kind of have things in that file that I kind of like the way they're working, I'll be able to merge both. Either export a height map and recreate this terrain. I mightn't do if that is the case, I mightn't do too much more on the splines and kind of things like that. I will be losing some of my hard work. Well, I wouldn't call it hard work, but some of my work on the kind of forest floor material, and maybe the trees will have to go and such. But it should be okay. I'm not going to panic about that too much. If it means that overall I get a quicker, faster workflow out of it, with something that looks or approximates what I'm kind of the visual style that I'm going for a bit more, then I think that's the way to go, rather than kind of be precious about my work and be unwilling to kind of lose stuff. I'm more than willing to go with the best solution. So with that in mind, I'll continue on with the roads that we see here. Once they're done, and as kind of proof of concept, and I'm comfortable with what I've done in the other kind of experimental project with the landscape auto material, I'll be going ahead to combine them both. So hopefully for next Friday, when you guys come back, I should have both the landscape auto material stuff and the roads in the level, and that'll be pretty cool to see. So we're episode 6. We're not far away from episode 10, which is a big kind of landmark kind of target, I guess, for the next couple of weeks. I'd like to have something big to show kind of the project fairly well down the line by then, so that we can kind of maybe take a retrospective look, see what worked for us, see what slowed us down, what sped us up, what assets from the marketplace really helped, which didn't really, ones we didn't really get on well with, things that perhaps maybe didn't do exactly what they said on the tin, and kind of have a kind of an overall big picture look at the project. But hopefully by then we'll have hit some major milestones, and we'll have most of the actual persistent level down and streaming and ready for maybe a game design pass, which is probably long overdue at this stage. It'd be nice to get to a point where at least everything is kind of nailed down roughly, if nothing else, just for now. So okay guys, hopefully I'll see you all next week, and we should have our paths and our roads finished. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all again soon.